Hey y'all, it's my review for the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, episodes 10 and 11. I'm gonna be honest, I'm getting a little tired of this franchise. I'm not really motivated to review it. That's why it took me a long time to get to it. But I'm a completionist and I'm gonna finish it. But the drama just isn't doing it for me, and Jen Shah is absolutely repulsive. I'll get into it more a little bit later, but just finishing this last episode, I'm just like, they need to end this season. I hope there's only maybe 6 episodes left because that's all I can take. So let's get into the episode. So 10 starts off with the ladies still on the yacht, and this is after the Sprinter van where Angie K just, let Jen have it. So she's mad. She's telling the ladies on her side of the boat, how much she can't stand Angie K. And then on the other side of the boat, you have Angie K saying, she can't believe her best friend did this to her. So we're with Jen, she's talking to Heather and Meredith, and Heather is really egging Jen on and saying, oh yeah, Angie was trying to make it her trip and wasn't even thinking about you. I'm so disappointed in Heather. She's so likable, I'm sure, but her head is just so far up Jen's ass, it's getting on my nerves. On the other side, you have Angie K telling the rest of the ladies how Jen is, and they agree with her. About her behavior and how she acts towards everybody. But again, it just seems like everyone's afraid to tell her this and hold her accountable. Also, you have Heather throwing Lisa under the bus saying, oh yeah, Lisa didn't have your back at all. So now Jen is mad at Lisa for not having her back. When you're friends with Jen Shah, you have to have absolute loyalty, even if she's at fault. Even when she scams old people, you have to be on her side. We cut to Dana's confessional, and she's saying if Jen talks to her good friends like this, then of course she's gonna have no problem cussing my ass out. So now all the ladies are together on one side of the boat. They're trying to have fun. Whitney is doing her best trying to twerk. Lisa's having fun. She's asking Jen, come on, get up, have fun. And then we see Jen being passive aggressive saying, I've been the effing fun. Tell those bitches to bring it. Lisa hears this and she says, hey, if you have something to say, then say it to me. So now they're talking one-on-one. Jen is actually mad at Lisa for not having her back for dumping a glass of champagne over Angie's head. Jen is now being a petulant brat, and you have Lisa running behind her trying to hug her and say, Jen, I'm your friend, I'm your friend. F her. I know we too early in the video, y'all, but I wish I could curse. And here this fella go say, I'm dealing with bigger issues. Bigger issues that you caused, because you got caught, you thief. Jen tells Lisa, don't you ever expect me to have your effing back, and pushes her. If Jen would have pushed me like that, she would have been off that boat quicker than Tanya from White Lotus. What? So then in a fit of rage, Jen throws the little vegetable platter off the boat. Just a temper tantrum. Oh my God. How can these ladies take her? While all this is going on, the other ladies are just dancing and twerking in the background. So this back and forth has finally reached the boiling point. Lisa's had enough and calls Jen a bitch, and I have been an effing friend to you. Yeah, so they're screaming at each other now. The other ladies catch on and they try to break it up. Does anybody see the pattern of Jen's behavior to her friends? Her ride or die Heather, her friend of 20 years Angie K, and now Lisa. They need to ice her out, but for some reason they're afraid. If y'all notice, the only person she's not mean to like that is Meredith, because she knows Meredith will cut her off like that, and then she'll really be on an island. Lisa, the way you're going off on Jen in this confessional, I need you to keep that same energy when she's in your face. And here go Jen with the tears after her temper tantrum. No one knows what I'm going through. Girl, no one should feel sorry for your thieving ass. This woman is an emotional manipulator, and it's getting exhausting to watch. So the ladies are divided again, and Lisa and Jen are now complaining about each other. We're on Jen's side of the boat, and of course as Jen is coddling her, she makes the joke to throw Angie K's purse overboard. And I'm not sure if Jen is inebriated in this moment, but she does take Angie's shoes and throw them overboard. My mouth dropped when she did that, because those shoes allegedly were very expensive. I don't understand how Jen didn't get them hands. Seriously. She is a bully, really. She did this to her friend of 20 years. What you think she gonna do to you, Heather? And Heather is laughing, as well as Meredith. So now Jen accidentally throws one of Whitney's shoes overboard, and then that's when Heather's like, oh my God, like runs to the edge of the boat. Like, this isn't even fun to watch. Like, it's just really mean. So production lets the other ladies know that there are some shoes floating in the water, and the other ladies are just starting to panic. Lisa's like, I hope they're not my shoes, my Yves Saint Laurent's. Yeah, Angie K's about to be in for a big surprise. And now Jen's lying about it. She's like, no one touched your shoes, Angie. I'ma laugh when I hear that this bitch get 10 years in prison. I'm going to laugh. I cannot wait to report it to y'all. It's going to be an exclusive on here. I'm not even going to do it on Pop Bros. I'm going to do a live reaction of this bitch's sentencing because she is evil. So the yacht trip is over. The ladies are headed back to the Sprinter, and Jen is pissy drunk. So ladies get back to the house and they just leave Jen in the Sprinter. She is laid out, passed out, drunk. I think an hour and a half went by before she dragged herself out the Sprinter back into the house. We then see Heather talking to Angie H on FaceTime, giving her the details about the trip so far. Heather, you should have just invited your friend there. It wouldn't have been an issue. Really, Heather? So you complain about all this shit Jen doing to Angie, but you don't want to call her out at all. Okay. Like, this is what's making me dislike Heather a lot. Shit, who else is there to like on the show? Like, I don't really care for Whitney. Meredith is just there. Lisa Barlow, I mean, she is borderline a narcissist, but, you know, Jen got her beat on that. The friends of, I mean, they trying to do the heavy lifting, but no one on here is likable. So it's later in the evening, and the activity for the night is a Polynesian dinner party hosted by Jen. Jen comes down dressed representing her culture, and she's all cheerful and happy, just acting like she wasn't a fucking menace earlier in the day. Are they all just gonna pretend like her behavior on the yacht didn't happen? So the ladies go out to the backyard. This dance is there for entertainment. I don't know who's paying them. And also, the food looks pretty bomb. I've always been curious to try the roasted pig. Has anybody ever had that before? So after the fire dancers finish performing, the ladies are all seated for dinner. And a few moments later, we see these lame, mediocre male strippers come out as Jen's entertainment and fun. Again, I'm wondering how they're gonna get paid. And y'all know I love me some strippers, but these strippers ain't sexy at all. I would not tip them. So the ladies all talking at the table, and we see Angie K ask Dana how's her first girls trip going. She says she's having fun, but she notices there's an elephant in the room, and she points out like her disagreement with Jen, but she also throws Heather under the bus and lets the table know what she told her, which is if Jen gave her an ultimatum, she wouldn't be friends with Jen anymore. We then see the fear of God on Heather's face because you know she hates confrontation with Jen. Production then gives us a flashback reminding us of what Heather said about Jen. So now we're talking about Angie H and her husband's fake profile that he made. I mean, why are we even talking about this? Because Angie H wasn't even invited on the trip. We then find out some new information on this, and the reason why Angie H's husband didn't apologize because his legal representation told him that it's not a good idea to apologize to a felon. Why does Angie H and her husband have PR people? So when Jen hears this information about them not wanting to be associated with her, that puts the battery in her back to go after Heather now, her good friend. I will admit though, Dana, that this has nothing to do with you. You should have addressed Jen and how she bit your head off for what Angie K ran and told what you said. That's what we should be talking about, but she's throwing Heather under the bus. So now that Heather is backpedaling and pussy popping, her and Jen are now going back and forth. Heather then tells her own friend, Dana, why are you so invested in this? So then Angie K comes to her defense and says, well, you put her in the middle of it. So now Heather and Angie K are going back and forth. Heather tells her, girl, after the day you had, you need to just sit back and listen. But Angie K ain't backing down. She then brings in Jen's friendship and how she's not a good friend to her. It's just too much. Because Jen has done Angie K, Heather, and Lisa. Like, she did all three of them dirty, but they still arguing about her. These shuffleboard alliances are just really getting on my nerves. Angie K and Heather are really arguing about who's been a better friend to Jen after Jen hasn't been a good friend to them. To them. I am so stressed out by this. So now Lisa enters the argument and tries to call Jen out because she was talking shit about Heather. Like, the whole fact of the matter looming over all this bullshit they saying is that Jen and Heather have a very toxic relationship. So now Lisa seemed like she had enough, so now she's yelling at Jen, calling her out on her bullshit, especially what she did today at the yacht. And then Jen is like, what did I do to you? And Lisa looked like her head was about to explode when she said that. And this is again what Jen does. Like, aside from being an emotional manipulator, she's a gaslighter too. Well, at least somebody calling Jen out. Lisa tells her to stop fucking lying. Finally, someone said it. They then cut to Meredith for her perspective, and I'm just like, girl, shut up. No one wants to hear what you have to say. Like, you and Jen's relationship is weird. I don't understand it at all, especially compared to last season. And of course, in Jen fashion, when you call her out on her bullshit, she's tongue-tied. Then she tries to bring up the situation she's going through. She then cries, then try to get people to be sorry for her, then starts the cycle all over again. Wow, I gotta give it to Lisa. She's really letting Jen have it and calling her out for her behavior. Like, so much so that Jen then apologizes to Angie K. And Angie K, she just accepts the apology. Oh, I really appreciate it. I can tell you're sorry. Really, girl? I mean, she threw your shoes overboard. Didn't even care. So now it looks like Heather and Jen are being forced by the rest of the group to admit how they feel about one another. And as Heather is making all these excuses, she's saying, I didn't know Angie H was gonna come with Whitney. Whitney then jumps into the conversation and says, you invited us. And that's true, Heather, you did. And now they're going back and forth. Heather and these excuses. Lord, when is she gonna own anything she said? Own it, own it. So now we have Jen and Heather going back and forth about Angie H again. And Heather is tired. She's like, so what do you want me to do, Jen? Like, her husband apologized to you, called you on the phone. Clearly that's not enough for Jen. And then Heather asked the whole table, like, oh, so no one here is friends with Angie H? She asked around the table, are you friends with Angie still? Are you friends with Angie? Whitney says, that has nothing to do with us. Really? I mean, Heather had a point there. I mean, so Heather's the only one who's not allowed to be friends with Angie, but the rest of the table can't. This argument is gonna pop one of my blood vessels. It really is. So Jen basically doesn't want Heather to be friends with Angie H. And Heather at least stands up for herself and says, Jen, I'm not doing that. And Jen tries to say, well, you've only been friends with me 60% of the time. And Heather asks her, oh, so you've been 100% a good friend to me the entire time. And Jen says, yes. Jen then says she wants to know where everyone stands. That's why she's making a big deal out of Angie H. And then she says the only person she knows where they stand is Angie K, of all people at the table. How you treated this woman in the past 24 hours, she's now your friend now because you're beefing with Heather. Like, how are all these ladies friends with her? It's mind-boggling, and we've seen 3 seasons of it. Lisa then tries to tell Jen something, and Jen says, what are you talking about? And Lisa's like, fuck this. She gets up from the table. She says, I need to call my kids. Heather then gets up from the table too, and then tells Jen no more ultimatums. But Jen is a textbook narcissist, so that means nothing to her. She tells Heather, I need to know where to put you. Are you a Lisa Barlow or a Heather Gay? She then has the nerve to tell Heather that she has perpetuated her brand, and then Heather turns around and tells her, well, you need to find yourself a new Heather Gay. And we all know that just means go find yourself a new minion. And then Heather says, I'm out, and that is where the episode ends, y'all. What a frustrating ass episode. Let's just get to episode 11. So it's the next day of the San Diego trip, and it is only day 2. All that shit that happened in the last episode, that was day 1. Anywho, you have some of the ladies by the pool. It's Angie K, Whitney, and Lisa. And Lisa's complaining about Jen to them. And they all agree. But they're just used to Jen's behavior and putting up with her. So as they're all talking about how bad of a friend Jen is, Whitney chimes in and says Heather is just as bad. Angie K then asks her, how is your friend break going with her? And then production gives us a little rewind. I'm guessing it's really important to hold on to that because it's going to be brought up later. Bravo production loves foreshadowing. So now we're inside the house, and Lisa and Heather cross paths, and Lisa's explaining herself of how she was trying to just hold Jen accountable, and then we see that Jen is talking to Angie K, and she's trying to clean up her mess with her, and it looks like Angie's being a good minion and back in Jen's good graces. And side note, it looks like Jen's wearing a pink version of Angie K's swim outfit she wore in the last episode. I wouldn't be surprised if that was Angie K's outfit. So now they hug it out and they're good again. We're back with Lisa talking to Heather, and Heather tells her that we all have toxic relationships with Jen, and production reminds us. I mean, I agree, but you see that Heather to this day is still good friends with Jen. Like, what is it called? Stockholm Syndrome? That's what she has with Jen. It always feels like Heather is real in private conversation, but then when she gets in front of the entire group, it's a lot of backpedaling. So the ladies are now gathered downstairs, and the activity for the day is just them going to the beach. For the most part, everyone's being cordial, for now. So they all arrive at the beach, and they have two gregarious white people waiting on them. They're like, "Hi, ladies, we have a lot of good games for you." And I'm kind of like with Meredith, like, can we just chill on the beach and, maybe have a mojito or something? I don't care about no damn games. Fast forward. So now that nonsense is over, the ladies are just chilling on the beach right now. Then a few moments later, they decide to divide into two groups. Lisa, Heather, and Jen, they're gonna go eat, and then the rest of the ladies are gonna go surf. So we follow Jen's group because we know eventually they're gonna have to have an uncomfortable conversation about their friendships. The lunch starts off cordial at first, and then Heather brings up the explosive dinner that they had last night. So Jen acknowledges the disagreement her and Lisa had. She says she was mad at Angie K for a bit, but she keeps telling this lie that she dumped the champagne on that woman's head because she wanted to make it light and fun. You didn't. Like, you were tired of her shit, she was getting on your nerves, and you wanted to put her in her place because you hold a pecking order in your head. So then we see something rare, and it's Lisa and Heather together holding Jen accountable for her actions. And of course, Jen isn't gonna take that accountability. So then Heather asks Jen the million-dollar question: do you think we have a toxic relationship? Jen actually says yes, and then she tries to call Heather a flip-flopper. So Heather is defending herself and bringing up how Jen talked about her to the other girls. Jen lies, and then production shows us the clip of Jen talking shit about Heather. So then Lisa chimes in and tells Jen that she has like a cycle of pretty much abusive behavior to the other ladies. Now remember, Lisa and Heather hate each other, so for them to come together on Jen, that is a very big deal. They're making some really good points, and all Jen has to say is, I acknowledge this, I won't do it anymore, and I apologize. You have my word. But y'all think Jen will do that? I don't think so. After Jen hears this, she's still not taking accountability. She's trying to call Heather a flip-flopper. You know why it's toxic and terrible? Because you flip-flop. You. Like, she always does this. I hate this woman. I really do. Oh yeah, by the way, y'all, this is a supersized episode. They're giving us an additional 15 minutes. So yes, this is torture for me. Heather continues to tell Jen about her behavior displayed on the first day of the trip. Heather then calls out Jen for giving her an ultimatum. Jen then lies and says, I never gave you an ultimatum. Heather goes down the list of all the things Jen did on the first day of the trip, and then Jen interrupts Heather and says, I tried to commit the S word because I can't say it on YouTube or else this video will be flagged. So Jen tried to off herself, which has nothing to do with the conversation, but you know how despicable Jen is? She'll use something as serious as that to emotionally manipulate somebody in a conversation. So now Heather and Lisa are blindsided by this heavy information that Jen just dropped on them. All because they're holding her ass accountable. Like, she is disgusting. Yes, that's terrible that she tried to end her life, but what does this have to do with the situation whatsoever? You tried to end your life because you ruined other people's life, and now you're about to be held accountable by a federal court. This was the scene that made me want to stop watching the show. Like, the lengths this woman will go. Like, it's insane. And it should be no surprise why she is in the trouble she's in by the way she treats these women. So then Jen discussed the details of what she just told the other ladies in her confessional. So it seems like she's blaming the Angie H situation for the brink of her ending her life. She said she locked herself in the bathroom. She was going to do something, and then Coach kicked the door down and brought her to the hospital, and she was there for 2 days. So then Heather hears this conversation, and she's going a little bit lighter on Jen. But then she still acknowledges like, hey, like you still have this cycle of behavior. Jen then gets up in a tantrum and says, well, you both have cycles. Also forgot to mention, she just left off in a tantrum telling the ladies, oh, so when I do finally kill myself, you guys will finally think it's the truth. Disgusting. And Lisa and Heather just dealing with that. Oh my God. So when they get on the sprinter, we see Lisa like holding Jen. I can't. I just can't. We're back with the other ladies and they're headed to the house. And Whitney says, I forgot how just quiet it is if it's just the 4 of us. I mean, clearly, without Jen, there's peace. So the first set of ladies get back to the house. It's Whitney's group, and we found out that she's planning the activity for the night, which is a Marilyn Monroe themed dinner. She'll be providing all the ladies with cheap blonde wigs. Meanwhile, we're with the other ladies in the sprinter on their way back to the house, and it's very somber. And Jen looks distraught because she disclosed that information. And you have Lisa and Heather trying to comfort her because they've been emotionally manipulated. So later we see all the ladies getting ready and putting on their Marilyn Monroe costumes. They all come out dressed, and then production does a little freeze frame for all the ladies in their costumes and adds Monroe at the end of their name. So I'm gonna judge who did the best Marilyn out of all the ladies. And surprisingly, I'm gonna give it to Dana. She understood the assignment. First and foremost, she styled her wig the best, like better than all the other ladies. And her outfit, it's accurate. Now, as for the other ladies, Whitney looks okay. Lisa, her dress is accurate, but that wig is a fool. Heather is okay. Angie K is aight. Meredith looks like an escort in that wig. And then finally we have Jen, who looks like a busted drag queen. Now her wig is the worst. It is just sitting on her head, and it looks like she just got electrocuted. Child, they going out in public dressed like this. And again, Jen looks a fool. And it always starts off like this. All the ladies are talking, getting along, and being cordial. Then it just takes one conversation for everything to just go left and people to storm off. Okay, their server, he's clearly ready for his close-up. Okay, ladies, how are you doing today? How can I help? He is like animated to 1,000. So the ladies are all talking about their day, and then Meredith goes, well, what about you ladies? Did you have a good time? So then, yeah, that was the wrong thing to bring up. So the 3 of them looking at each other, Lisa, Heather, and Jen, they're just like, it was okay, but it was very, very heavy, emotional. Now, Whitney, she's being a little inquisitive, and she's asking, and they're hesitant to say, they're just looking at Jen. And then I think Whitney says something else, but then Jen says, you know what? You want to know? You want to know since you're so inquisitive? I wanted to end my life. I tried to do it. And the whole table, like the whole energy changes. And she tries to make Whitney feel bad, obviously, for asking what happened. She's a sociopath. I cannot stand her. So now Jen, with the attitude, asks Whitney her situation with Heather so she can get the attention off of her. So now Whitney and Heather going at it about their drama that started, what, 4 or 5 episodes ago and still going? Oh, the Angie ate shit again. So they're going back and forth about that. And now Whitney tries to bring up an example between Jen and Heather. Jen surprisingly has Heather's back and trying to tell Whitney that didn't happen. But we all know Jen lies, so what she's saying means absolutely nothing. It's hard for me to keep track, y'all, because I just don't care. Like, throughout this entire argument, I'm wondering, what are they even arguing about? Like, what? That Heather couldn't remember a rumor that Angie said around her when she was drunk at a basketball game? That is the root of their argument. And then Whitney tries to throw in whatever abuse she had and tries to conflate it with whatever she's going on with Heather. So it's just like the same argument. Heather, look at me. Heather, look at me. This is my point. Like, you won't listen to me. Listen to what? Like, we've heard you 3-4 episodes trying to explain to this woman why you mad at her. Every time I try to speak and make my point, you always cut me off. The argument is just going around the table. Whitney tries to bring up some point, but then Meredith interrupts and says, well, you did lie and say that I brought up the rumor first when you did. So then they're going back and forth on that. Just old shit from, I think, 6 episodes ago. And now we're talking about accountability, and my fucks are out. I'm just waiting for it to end. So then Jen chimes in and talks about the time they were all at the hot tub and how Whitney really felt with Heather. And she tells Heather that Whitney said she's taking a friend break from you. So that was the foreshadowing that we got in the beginning of the episode. And Heather goes into orbit over this information. Heather is going off on Whitney and she's saying something about loyalty and deals broken. Now, it looks like their friendship is over at this point. I cannot take Jen seriously talking in this wig that she is wearing. I really can't. But Whitney then points out to Heather she gives so many passes to Jen, but then when she gets in an argument with her, it's just final. And they've never had as big of an argument between them as Heather and Jen has. And I can agree with her on that. I mean, Heather gives Jen all the passes. It's Stockholm Syndrome. Make it stop. The back and forth continues between Whitney and Heather. Did this scene annoy y'all as much as it's annoying me? It has to be. Whitney then storms off from the table, and just hearing this conversation, it looks like Heather is jealous between the relationship of Lisa and Whitney is jealous of the relationship between Heather and Jen. So Whitney goes back to the table, and her and Heather try to talk it out again. I'm checked out. I don't care. Do y'all? So as they're going back and forth, Whitney then drops the abuse card again, saying that this triggered her, you know, with Heather pushing her out of her house. We get that flashback, and I still feel like they're at a stalemate. They just refuse to meet in the middle, and it is so frustrating because it's just going back and forth, like an annoying ping pong game. Like, it's mundane. Heather is definitely not receiving it, and now she's telling Whitney sorry for this, sorry for that, but it's like a passive-aggressive apology, and they're not going anywhere. So I beg both of them to just move on. So finally, this dinner is over, and it looks like the ladies are going to go to the club. At this point, we have 10 minutes left. Okay, so the club that they're going to is clearly a gay club. So they're clubbing, they're all having a good time, they're drinking, a lot of oonce music. It looks like they're all tipsy. They get back into the Sprinter, they're headed home. They all get back to the house, everyone's a drunken mess. We see glasses breaking, titties is out. Okay, so it's mostly Heather and Jen displaying this behavior. They are toe up. Things kind of calm down after they start humping each other on the bed. So now we start getting timestamps and weird camera angles of the house. So we see Heather, she's back in her room. She turns the lights out. I think an hour goes by. She answers the door because we see like the door's just clicking or whatever, like somebody's at the door. So when she goes to answer it, the footage goes out. They playing some dramatic ass music. We then get 7 hours later. Child, the credits are rolling now. We're in Heather's room and she's wearing some battered wife shades. We see that she texts Meredith to come to the room, and we see her and Jen in the room already, and Meredith comes in and they have to tell Meredith something. Meredith then sits down across from Heather. Then Heather takes off her glasses to reveal a nasty black eye along with some scratches. Meredith's mouth drops. She asks, what happened? And that is where the episode ends, on that cliffhanger. So who punched Heather in the eye? I'm gonna say Jen did it. By accident. That's going to be my guess. I really don't care, but they really are trying to milk this black eye. I'm guessing we're going to find out next week what happened. As far as these 2 episodes, it was torture, y'all. I mean, but I got through it. The one before that was a little entertaining, but this past episode right here, you know, with Jen trying to use ending her life as emotional manipulation, I was just really disgusted by that and really turned off. For those of you that still watch Salt Lake City, let me know what you thought of the 2 episodes. And with that, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you for the next exhausting ass episode. Bye.